The year was 2006. It was the early days of the Xbox 360. The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion was the only notable open-world RPG for the system. People loved it. They were clamoring for more games like it. Then, Two Worlds was announced. People were excited. It was hyped up more than you could imagine. And then, in 2007, something terrible happened. The game was released, but I didn't follow gaming news at the time, so I wasn't riding that hype train when it flew off the rails and landed in a swamp of flaming diarrhea. It wasn't until shortly after the release of Two Worlds 2 that I heard a story about how bad the first game was. And then a couple of weeks later, I went to GameStop and found it for only $5. And that combination of low price, morbid curiosity, and being bored out of my goddamn mind led me to grab it and say, let's see just how bad it is. So I got home, made my character, and skipped the opening cutscene and every line of dialogue, and once I was free to explore the world, I ran straight to the nearest body of water to test whether or not I'd die simply by touching liquid, and the very first voice clip I ever heard from this game was...
"Oh, that's wet."
Well, you can swim at least, but it's painfully slow unless you dump skill points into swimming. That's about what I expected. I went into this game knowing it was bad, looking for something to laugh at. It didn't disappoint in that regard, but those who dropped $60 on this when it launched were understandably pissed. They were told it was going to be Oblivion, but better, with more in-depth combat, a larger world to explore, and more quests and memorable characters than they could count. They do give you a large enough world that you can freely travel with little to no restrictions. I like the idea of finding rare ingredients to make potions that permanently increase your stats. I like being able to use duplicates of the equipment I find to improve what I have. I like the idea of enemies being weak to different types of damage, like the sharp edge of a sword being ineffective on the fleshless bone of a skeleton. And I like the idea of needing to find people to train you in order to unlock certain combat skills. But that is every good thing I have to say about this game. I hope you're ready for a long list of grievances. The game begins with you and your sister, Kira, riding through a storm.
"Why did you not tell me? You will bleed to death."
Don't make a period joke, don't make a period joke, don't make a period joke. She's having her period. You dumbass! You turn your back on her for 2 seconds, and she gets kidnapped by the evil Gandahar. Several months later, you get sent to clear an abandoned temple of goblins. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Groms. This is your tutorial. And then Gandahar shows up looking for you, and the first handful of main quests you do is talk to Gandahar, who sends you to talk to Reist, who sends you back to talk to Gandahar, who sends you off to talk to your kidnapped sister, who sends you back to talk to Gandahar, who sends you back to talk to Reist, who sends you back to talk to Gandahar, who sends you off to talk to...
Oh.
I get that you need to set up the story, but the exposition isn't supposed to be the quest. It's supposed to be the reward for completing the quest. Battling fierce monsters, solving puzzles, delving into dangerous crypts. You know, playing the damn game. The voice acting is bad, and they try to use these old-timey words like verily, 'tis, and forsooth, but I'm not even sure they're using them right.
"Forsooth, 'twas generous."
"Verily, verily."
"Verily, forsooth, 'tis as you say. I too have gotten mine penis stuck inside of thy slinky." What? I also really don't like how this guy says teleport.
When you wish to teleport, put the teleport stone on the ground. Step closer and activate it like a teleport.
Speaking of teleporting, you need to activate each teleport by walking up to it while holding a teleport activator, which that guy gives you for a very easily missed side quest. Why is something as important as being able to quickly return to places you've been a side quest to begin with? You should have this at the very start of the game, but nope. You wander up to these teleports without the activator, and congratulations, you just wasted your time, stupid. Trying to navigate the world can be a pain in the ass too. The controls for the map screen are weird. It starts off zoomed way too far in. You have to click the right stick to zoom out, use the D-pad to scroll, and using the left stick just snaps the pointing finger to whichever active quest marker you hover this barely visible box on the right over top of. And the arrow indicating you can be hidden underneath the markers for whatever location you're in. When you want to follow the quest objective you want to focus on, you can't tell the game which markers to show and which ones to hide on the minimap. You have to point yourself in the direction of that marker, start walking, and hope there aren't any obstacles forcing you to change direction. And only when you get close enough to the objective does the marker actually show up on the minimap. At least you can find horses standing around and take them with no consequences, but the horseback riding controls are just as stiff and unresponsive as the animations. You try to turn while you're anywhere near a wall and the horse refuses. You can see it trying to turn, but it doesn't. It's like it's mocking you. Yeah, you want to go through this open gate? Well, too bad. Oh, you almost had it. Gotta be better than that. You can fight while mounted for a little extra damage on each swing, but that feels even more unresponsive than the turning, and it's a complete coin flip whether or not you swing on the right side. You're just better off going on foot. It's slower, but at least you can actually control where you go. Combat is very simple. All you do is mash the right trigger to swing and hit B to dodge whenever the enemy decides to not take hit stun, or if your swing just inexplicably goes harmlessly through these poorly modeled wolves. If you have a shield, you can block incoming attacks, but you don't actively press a block button. You have a percentage chance of blocking, and it only works if you're standing perfectly still and not attacking. Difficulty doesn't scale to your level. Different areas have different levels of danger, which I can respect. But if you go straight to see Ho based on what Gandahar said, you'll quickly run into ghouls and wyverns right outside his house, and unless you've been doing a bunch of side quests and scavenging the best equipment you can find, you'll get your ass kicked. You're not gonna have enough healing potions to deal with this jump in difficulty, but that's fine because death has no consequences. When you die, you immediately respawn at the closest Maliel shrine, even if you haven't found it yet. So if there's a tough enemy, you can just endlessly respawn and keep coming at them until you win. And standing near these shrines constantly heals you too, so you can just put your back to it and single-handedly fight off entire armies. The difficulty spike is a problem, but the complete lack of punishment for failure is also a problem. Where's the challenge? You can't fix one bad thing with another bad thing. That'd be like if you went to the hospital for brain surgery, woke up afterward, and the doctor said, "Hey, that brain tumor isn't going anywhere, but don't worry, we gave you liver cancer too. That'll be $600,000. You'd be thinking everything would be bearable if you had a basic healing spell, but the thing is, you do. It's already equipped from the start of the game, but you'd be forgiven for not knowing that because the tutorial doesn't teach you how to switch between your equipped spells. It only teaches you how to move, draw your sword, and windmill it like a kid with a toy lightsaber. I'm only 8 years old, but I still gotta pay my taxes or else I get the death penalty. One more thing that bothers me is the fact that every strike from your sword is accompanied by a cartoon punch sound effect. There are the skills I mentioned earlier that need to be learned from certain people, but I couldn't be bothered to find those teachers, and they wouldn't change combat all that much. I know this because the enemies just spam these moves all the time, and they're just minor inconveniences. Now I can see the skill for unhorsing a mounted enemy being useful if the enemies actually rode horses. Even if there's one nearby, they don't mount up and try to run you down on horseback. They just run at you all at once, trying to swarm you like flies on a big pile of this game. Let's get back to the main story. Gandahar tells you he works for Reist, and they want to revive the evil god Oziral, and to do that, they need a relic that was used to seal him away 300 years ago, but that relic is cursed, and only your family is immune to the curse, and that Reist will kill you and your sister after they have the relic, but Gandahar doesn't want to kill you, he wants the relic, then he's gonna help you get out. The relic is split into 5 pieces, the frame and 4 elemental stones that are scattered throughout the land. Since this one is closest, I went after it first, but this guy won't let me through the gate, so I just jumped on some rocks and went over it. And there's the frame behind this locked gate, and nobody here will talk to me, so screw it, I'll figure this one out later. Then we go to the village of Windbreak, and this guard captain talks about having captured an orc chief, and he sent his men to take him to prison, so he sends you to check on them. Their caravan was ambushed, so he sends you to the orcs' war camp to look for the chief, and he isn't there. So then he sends you to the chief's hideout, because he just knows where that is, and the chief says he wants to fight the captain again and sends you back to him, but I got tired of running back and forth and decided to fight the chief myself. After a while, a large number of regular orcs appeared and started attacking their own chief for some reason, so I killed every one of them and went deeper into the hideout, which happens to be the crypt of an ancient king who was buried with the earth element. Next one takes us to the city of Ashos, and there is a long, tedious quest line for this one, and by that, I mean the gate guard sends you to talk to this lady, who sends you to talk to this guy, who sends you to talk to this lady, who sends you to talk to this guy, who sends you to talk to this lady, who sends you to kill giant bugs, and just like that, after going through half of the main story, it finally gives you something resembling an actual quest. This is all to get a key so you can enter the temple, and the third person you talk to has this key, but I ended up doing his sister's side of the quest and locking myself out of his side, and the only way I could think to get the key was to murder him and take it. So then I went into the temple, ignored every enemy inside, and grabbed the water element and came back out to find the city overrun by orcs. That's 2 elements down. According to Ho, the next one is guarded by a dragon, and it's in a place called White Dragon's Nest. So where's the dragon? Why is the element out in the open, unguarded? Doesn't matter even if the dragon was there, you could probably just walk past it, grab the element, and leave without having to fight him. Now I am playing a little coy about something. I know where the dragon is. I remember from playing this game years ago that if you go way over here to the desert, you can find a side quest that rewards you with something that summons the dragon to its own home where it's supposed to be already, guarding the all-important air element so it doesn't get grabbed by the first random dingleberry that wanders in. The fire element is all the way down south in the orc city of Gorgamar. The front gate is locked, so you just step around to the side and go through this tunnel that leads directly into the city, slaughter a sizable chunk of the city's population, and grab the element. That's it. No quest line, no big boss fight, just a tunnel and a buttload of orcs. So now we have all of the... Oh, wait. We still need the frame to put the elements in. Now, I'm sure there's a big quest line that involves nothing but running around talking to people to get the frame, but at this point, I felt that I'd spent enough time on this game, so... Murder, grab. With the relic assembled, we bring it to Gandahar, who quickly betrays you and says, "I don't work for Rice, he works for me, ha, stupid." Then a giant pentagram forms in the sky as Oziral's tomb begins to open, and they leave to perform the ritual, leaving you on the brink of death. And I can't help pointing out how the drama of the moment is kinda undermined by the fact that dying only means you'll pop out of an Egyptian ankh a few seconds later. So then you go to one of the 5 black towers that can be found at each point of the pentagram, then kill the guy at the top. Thankfully, you only need to kill 1 to lower the barrier around the castle, and then Reist stands in your way. He turns into a demon, and you have to kill him to open the gate. There's no walking around him. Now you might be wondering, what's to stop me from endlessly throwing my own corpse at him until I win? You see, Outside of combat, you and the enemy both slowly regenerate a small percentage of health every few seconds, and he has an immense pool of health. It takes about 20 hits from this sword to move his health bar 1 pixel, and he kills me with 1 hit, and all the damage I do to him gets completely regenerated away in the time it takes me to make the short run from the shrine back to him. The problem here is I'm simply not doing enough damage. I could be doing more because I have this badass, powerful sword that I can't use. Now, having stat requirements for this is one thing. I need more strength. I'm not strong enough to lift it up and swing it around. That makes sense. My dexterity is too low. I'm not skilled enough to use it properly. Understandable. But overall level should never be a requirement for using a piece of equipment in a game where you can shape your stats however you choose. I have the sword, I have the stats, but the game just sits there telling me I'm not allowed to use it simply because I haven't killed enough. This should be illegal, but fine, guess I'm off to grind for levels. Ashos is crawling with orcs, so there's plenty of fodder to cut through. Oh, wait a minute. A lot of the dead guards here have katanas with decent damage output. Now, if I were to attach a poison jewel to one of them to offset Ryst's health regen, and staple about 15 of them together to form one sword that hits for no less than 1,600 damage on each swing, then maybe... Yes! I can see his health bar moving! You're mine now, Ryst! So we kill Ryst, and Gandahar says, "Your sister needs to be Oziral's vessel, or else the ancients will come here from another world and do the bad." Then you're offered a choice. You can join Gandahar, or kill him and take your sister back. And he is not nearly as dangerous as Ryst. I can actually survive getting hit by him. So he dies, and that sends you back to the opening cutscene, but this time, your sister doesn't get kidnapped because killing Gandahar in the present made him not exist in the past? You ride off into the sunrise, and... I didn't edit that. It just abruptly snaps you back to the title screen. But what about the evil ending? What happens if you take Gandahar's side? Well, instead of fighting just one guy, you fight a whole swarm of guys, and then you stand side by side with Gandahar and your sister, who now has an evil god all crammed up inside of her, and... This game was terrible, and they even had the gall to put these deliberate lies on the back of the box. The new 10 standard to measure all other RPGs against? This miserable heap of minimum effort quest lines, badly paced artificial difficulty, unrefined gameplay mechanics, game design crime, and the most basic enemy AI imaginable? And I thought my standards were low. This game is 100% next generation RPG. Yeah, with its PS2 graphics that run at a consistent 10 frames a second, piss-poor voice acting, equally bad writing, a world that needs to come to a dead stop and load every 2 minutes, and dungeons that amount only to a few small rooms crammed full of enemies. A big and long overdue leap in RPGs? Oh, you mean this leap? It's Oblivion on steroids? It's Oblivion on drugs!
Hard ones.
It's a train wreck, a dumpster fire, a smoldering pile of dog dump. What did the developers do for the reviewers to get this kind of praise?
We beat them off.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The attempt to give combat more depth with different skills and having ways to counter them shows that some thought was put into this. There are redeeming qualities here, but they go almost completely unnoticed because they're so heavily outweighed by everything else that leaves us with this heinous mess of a game that's only good for a cheap laugh. This game could have been good. It might have even been great if they had just taken the time to iron out the performance issues, flesh out the quest lines, and refine and polish the gameplay. but for one reason or another, they didn't put enough time into this, and it shows. They could keep the bad writing, bad voice acting, questionable sound design, and the lackluster graphics, even by 2007 standards, and still have a decent game if it ran well, was fun to play, and had quests that were more than just talking to certain people. If you're out there developing your own game, let this be a lesson to you. Don't take shortcuts. Don't rush it. Give your game all the time and care it needs to match the image in your mind, because you don't want your game to be the next 2 Worlds.